This is The Competitive Edge with Charlie Hoehn. Welcome to The Competitive Edge. My name is Scott Britton, and I'm here to help you answer a question that we all have. How can I get an edge in my business and life? Each week, we're going to uncover how some of the most successful and inspiring entrepreneurs, entertainers, and thought leaders get an edge so you too can reach your full potential. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Competitive Edge. Today's guest is a new friend, somebody that I actually met at South by Southwest this year, but truthfully had been following online for a long time. His name is Charlie Hoehn, and he's the author of a new book called Play It Away. Now, Charlie'd been on my radar for a long time because he had worked with a lot of the guys that I had looked up to online. Specifically, Tim Ferriss, Ramit Sethi, Tucker Max. Tim Ferriss is actually the guy who inspired me to become an entrepreneur after reading his book, 4 Hour Workweek. And Charlie was his first employee. And not only was he his first employee, but he helped him with some of his books like The 4 Hour Body, 4 Hour Chef. And this guy basically had what I thought would be the ultimate dream job. So I'd kind of had him on my radar for a while now. We finally connected, and one of the things I realized, and we talked about in this interview, is that all of these people that we look up to are just normal humans. So today I'm really excited to have him on the show because we talk about a lot of the things like this, a lot of these beliefs that we have that are actually hurting us. And one of the main beliefs and the focuses of Charlie's new book, Play It Away, is that the way to succeed, the way to build better relationships, the way to get more of what you want is to grind yourself into the ground. And actually what Charlie's found in working with some of the top professionals, in experimenting on himself and being very self-aware of his happiness, is that there's actually another secret to greatness, to getting the things that we want. And it's actually something that the most innovative, successful, and revered entrepreneurs and artists have used. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and honestly just have a really fun conversation that I think you're going to learn from. So let's go ahead and hear from today's guest, Charlie Hoehn. Charlie, what is up, man?
What's up, Scott? I'm excited to talk to you, my friend. I'm really looking forward to this. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise, man. I'm really looking forward to it as well. And I feel humbled reading your bio.
Trust me, it makes me sound really, really good. There's also all the bad stuff is left out of that.
You know what? It's funny. I'm just going to start this conversation off here. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we were talking about how all these people that we read about and that we see from a distance online, at the end of the day, are just dudes. Like,
exactly.
Just a dude. And I have to tell you, before we connected in Austin at South by Southwest and met at Whole Foods and had a bromance, you were one of these guys that I looked up to and was like, wow, he's worked for Tim Ferriss, who wrote the book, and Meet, and he did this cool app empire thing. And then we had, Whole Foods together, and I know a little bit after I was like, man, Charlie's just a great guy and a normal dude. So I wanted to just tell you that before we dove into things here.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is something I really appreciate you saying that, and the feeling is reciprocated. This is really something that I've experienced multiple times with all the guys that I've worked with, because I experienced that same thing when I looked at them from the outside. You see them on paper and you're like, wow, what an amazing, like, they're a freak of nature.
Right.
And then you get around them and you're like, okay, they're just really eccentric in certain parts of their lives, and like they're really good at a handful of things. And they're also like bad or messed up in a lot of areas, like all of us are. And so it's just like everyone on the internet is just showing the only side of them that is like intriguing, I think. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about that, and we were talking about how unrelatable that can be and how intimidating or even insufferable it can sound sometimes. And so, like, one of the guys that I really admire is James Altucher, who's done a lot of amazing stuff, but he talks about all his ugly stuff too. And that's actually what's made him, I think, have such an ardent, like, or such a vocal, supportive group, is like they connect with him on multiple levels and respect him for being open about how shitty his life has been sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I just have this distinct instance where one of my friends was hanging out with a guy who's very notable for health and fitness and diet stuff, amongst other things. And he was so excited to text me in the morning after he happened to be out with a bar with this guy that he wanted to eat drunk pizza. He was so excited. He's like, you wouldn't believe it. He's a normal guy. He likes to have junk food when he's drunk as well. And yeah, it's just so indicative of this feeling that we all have that these people are superhumans, but in reality, it's just not the case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no matter who you are thinking of, like, no matter how perfect and pristine they might seem, like, they have some serious ugliness to them. And that's great, because that's like what we all can relate to, I guess. And that's what connects us.
It's a super empowering realization. And honestly, this is kind of a nice segue, because after we met, I did read your new book that just came out, and I felt a lot of the same feelings that you had mentioned in your book when I look at my own journey. And I think this would just be a really great time just to introduce your most recent book that just came out.
Sure. Well, let's see. So after I worked with Tim Ferriss for 3 years, and it was really an amazing, like, experience. It was great. And then I had to quit because I had a number of things, like, kind of fall apart in my personal life. And I'd been working around the clock. And so I went through this, and I say working around the clock, like, in the most honest, like I seriously was working around the clock, drinking coffee all day, sitting in cafes, staring at screens. My book is about the period after, when I went through, like, this intense period of anxiety that was caused by, I think, a number of things. But I was debilitated for a long time. And on the outside, on the surface, no one could really tell. They might be like, oh, Charlie's a little sleep deprived, or he's a little stressed. But on the inside, I felt like I was dying, and I felt like I was dead. And I felt like every emotion I'd hit, every happy emotion, I'd never really hit again. Like, I had this feeling that I would truly never be happy again. I tried all these different things to, like, get myself back to normal and get myself back to my old, like, confident self, because I had withered, and I was just terrified of everything. And I was just, like, constantly paranoid and suspicious of everyone. I was just afraid all the time. And it was the worst I've ever felt in my life. And so the book is about how I got myself out of that without using pharmaceutical drugs. And I realized, like, after I quit working with Tim, I had a number of options presented to me, and for a while I worked at that app startup, App Empire, and we did really well, but I walked away from that because it just wasn't the right fit for me. I didn't really care about apps. And so, I could have come out first with a book about, like, how to succeed in the world of business, like every author does, And I realized, like, after I was able to get over that really tough period, that the best thing I thought I could do was, like, to share that, like, really painful part of my life and to the people who I knew were suffering. Because when I got out of it, I could see it in other people for the first time. It was like I had this other sense that I developed where I could see somebody was, like, working themselves to death, weren't admitting it because it wasn't stigmatized, or they were facing they were dealing with such crippling anxiety and like mental chaos, and they couldn't explain it to anybody because they felt like they were going to break down, or they just couldn't admit it. They were trying to tough it out and man up and all this stuff. And so that's who I wrote the book for, is like for people who were really suffering. And it was amazing because, I called it A Workaholic's Cure for Anxiety, which is potentially the worst subtitle because no one identifies as a workaholic, nor do they identify as having anxiety usually. But it's funny because I thought entrepreneurs were going to love this book most, and a lot of entrepreneurs like have said like, this is exactly what I'm going through. But the most support I've gotten is from veterans and soldiers and people who are serving, because they just get shafted. Like there are so many, hundreds of thousands are getting laid off. And they're getting stripped of their identity, and they come back from serving and they have post-traumatic stress disorder and all these problems, and they don't have good health care. So it's like this book was my attempt to show people like it is absolutely within your power to get back to your normal, happy, healthy self, and there are ways you can do it naturally. It just has to be done kind of systematically. Like you have to focus on a critical few things that can really help.
It's so good. It's so good and it's so true. And I think you mentioned the entrepreneurs who are afraid to tell people that they're not doing well. And I just think of the meetup events and all the different dinners I've been to where you ask guys how their business is doing, and secretly they're like, yeah, we're killing it. We're crushing it. We're some verb with an ing and it at the end of it. And in reality, they're just depressed. They're unhappy. They're struggling, even when they're the picture of success, like you were for many people when you were working for Remy, doing the $1 million launch of the App Empire.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting is I think that a lot of people think that the recipe to really perform at the highest level, to be more creative, to take their company or whatever it is to the next level, is to work more, is to work harder.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lie that we're fed. And I think your book really touches upon a very counterintuitive perspective about this that I'd love for you to talk a little bit about in terms of performance and building our companies and all these ambitions that we have. Yeah.
So it's really funny. The book was truly like it was kind of a reawakening for me on how I got myself into positions of success in the first place. So many people get into entrepreneurship, I think, for like reasons of, there's money to be made. Like we could sell our company to a bigger company and have an amazing exit. And the reality is, it's like I got into positions where I was working with really cool people on cool projects because I was desperate to work on something fun. And when I got out of college, no one was hiring me. So I know we talked about this before. It's like, we don't want to get too much into this, but I got to say it. It's like, I was spending so much time, like just desperately looking for a paycheck. And when I finally switched and I was like, you know what, screw it. No one's going to hire me anyway. I'm just going to try and reach out to people who are doing cool stuff and say what I can offer to help them so I can get involved. And because I approached my work as a game, it was like, this is a game I'm creating for myself. And suddenly I found myself in this crazy game that I was playing. And then at some point it switched. It was like, whoa, my work's really important. Like, this is serious stuff. I need to get more done. I need to get more money. I need to have more success. And so it flipped from being like this internally rewarding thing to this externally rewarding thing. And that was a key thing that happened to me that I think happens to a lot of people is there's a bunch of startups that get into it and they're like, let's bring something cool into the world that we wish was there. Let's create let's do something interesting and amazing and fun. And then, VCs get involved or serious money gets involved, and they lose sight of what was making them great in the first place. And it's this really fine it's this really thin line to walk on. It's really hard to find that balancing act. But for me, when I started viewing the world as serious and about money and success, I started viewing life that way. So I started viewing friendships as obligations and like work as slavery. My work went from being something I liked doing because it was fun to something I had to do because I needed to make money. And I understand, I totally get, like, that's the latter viewpoint is the viewpoint for most people. And I've talked to a number of people and they're just like, well, gotta pay the rent somehow. And my point is, like, there are so many people, like, anyone can view their work as a game, and it changes how you approach your work. It changes it when you view it as an opportunity to have fun, as a canvas to paint on and to be creative and have fun with. And what I found, like, the realization I had while I was working through this period was the most innovative, successful, prolific, revered entrepreneurs and artists, almost all of them view their work as a means to play. And I actually, like, if you want to see, like, I'm talking about Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, J.K. Rowling, Warren Buffett, Bob Dylan, Plato, for God's sakes. Like, there's so many figures throughout history who've literally shaped our culture and our society into what it is now because they fundamentally viewed their work as a means to play. And that was really what led to a lot of my regaining my mental health, was remembering that that's how I always used to view life when I was growing up, was every moment was an opportunity to have fun. And I had deprived myself of that for years without even knowing it. And I think adults just do that because when we get older, we stop playing. We stop hanging out, for God's sake. I think you and I, Scott, we talked about this when you were down in Austin, is like, when you're in college, that's like the last time when you really stop, or that's the last time when you're really just getting together to hang out. And when you become an adult and you have a job, it's like you need an excuse to get together with your friends. Like, you need it to be this event. And I became one of those, like, sorry, I'm busy type of guys, like, all the time. And it sucked. I think I became like a pretty insufferable person. And what was bad about it is, like, it was encouraged from every side. It was like, I was doing all this cool stuff. So people were like, it's awesome, man. Go for it. Like, what's next? And so it was never like, dude, you don't have any balance. Like, this is messed up. You're destroying yourself. I think I had like one or two people say that to me. I didn't even listen, so it was bad.
Well, the thing that hit me in the book, and what you just alluded to a little bit, is just this mindset that it's really easy for ambitious young people, and I mean everybody, is just to view every decision and action that we take as, is this contributory to my success? Is this advancing me in some way?
Right.
And when you think like that, you don't have the just random chill outs that have no agenda or no purpose to them, man.
Right.
And for a while, like, you're going to climb the ladder. You're going to get things done. But I think when I was trying to wrap my head around why some of the absolute most influential people in our times, some of the most creative, the people that have shaped the world, and this idea that they were all viewing what they did as play, and this is in alignment with your experience as well, as that type of trajectory and outlook just isn't sustainable. it's impossible to live like that forever. Maybe for some people they can.
Are you talking about it's impossible to live as play, or it's impossible to just be in the mode of like get things done? And
it just sounds it's impossible to live in the true like creative, brilliant spark and be in the is this going to advance me mindset forever.
Yeah, because you're also just depriving yourself of being in the present. Like, because nothing is ever good enough. You're always looking toward the future. And, maybe that drives you like a madman. And maybe I don't know. I just don't find it fulfilling. There was an amazing article called Why I Quit Major League Baseball I think it was the New Yorker. And this guy just describes it perfectly. He was just in a different industry that entrepreneurs are in, but he was in professional sports. And he started, and he got so good because he loved the game so much. But when he got into the majors, everything became about the paycheck, and he just always had his head down on like, what's next, bigger paycheck. And he's like, it just robbed me of like what life is actually about, like why it destroyed it.
Totally. What would be some advice for people that just got hit by a ton of bricks from listening to this conversation, realize they might be in the same headspace that both you and me have been in before, and decide that, you know what, I want to start to integrate this play mindset into my daily life?
Yeah. So there are a number of things. One is, I guess I should start with this, is that your health is everything. I think your health is the number one thing that matters. And if you don't take care of yourself, like you can get away with it a little when you're young, but it eventually catches up to you. If you're constantly working 80, 90 hour work weeks, that stress that's associated with those times is not going to evaporate overnight. It's going to take at least 6 months before it leaves if you do it for an extended period of time. No joke. So take care of yourself, for God's sakes. Like that's the most important thing. But if you want to start incorporating play, I would suggest scheduling, making it a priority every day at a specific time. Just do something fun that you love, that you voluntarily did as a kid, that no one was forcing you to do. Do it for 20 minutes with a friend, somebody that is really positive in your social circle, that you feel relaxed and you can be yourself around. You don't feel like you have to impress them. And if you don't have friends like that, like, honestly, I would suggest either signing up for co-ed sports, because none of those people care what you do for a living, or sign up for improv comedy, which sounds like an anxious person's nightmare, especially a socially anxious person's nightmare, because you're just constantly acting stupid and embarrassing yourself. But it's so much fun. Like you're forcing yourself to get into true play, which is to be in the moment, to just goof off, and to not attach anything to it. And you're getting yourself out of the mindset of like, I have to be perfect, I have to dominate, I have to succeed, because it's only about having fun. That's the only goal. And I think playing sports and improv especially has had such a tremendous impact, not only on my social life, but on like my mental health. Is like, I just feel so much better about life, and just how I respond to things is just differently because I've done that. But like, I played the other day with my friend Tony. We spent a half hour just playing with the aerobie frisbee outside, and we were throwing it as far as we could. And you naturally start sprinting around after this thing and like leaping after it, and you sweat like it's a workout. So I think it's go play catch. Even if you want, just go on a walk with a friend. Do it with somebody who's not like a crazy business workaholic, serious type person. Do it with somebody who makes you laugh, who you like being around. I think it's so important. Is like, you become the average of the people you're surrounded with. And if you're surrounded by a bunch of other serious entrepreneurs, those aren't your playmates. So I think just making it a daily practice is like a really easy thing. And the other thing I want to say is like, this is not just about only about your mental health. Like, you come back to your work better and you're able to be more productive. You're able to sell better. Like, there are actual statistics that show, like, if you take care of your happiness through play, like, you can boost your sales by 37%. Like, there was a study I read that it makes you more productive, it makes you more creative, and it strengthens your relationships. If you happen to work at a company where they value play and you can actually play guilt-free and not in the bullshit ad agency type way where it's like, hey, we got a ping pong table to impress our clients. But if you can actually play at your office, it'll strengthen your relationships at your office. It'll reduce turnover and it'll increase retention. So there's all these professional benefits for executives and employees that can implement this too. But the real reason is like it's good for your mental and physical health, especially if you have a play activity where you're moving around outdoors and getting out in the sun and being in nature and just enjoying life in a way that you used to do very, very naturally when you were a kid. And just because you've been conditioned to sit and stare at a computer screen for 8 hours now during the day, I think it's more important than ever to actually make it a priority. But you have to schedule it, otherwise you're not going to do it.
You say this stuff with such conviction, and I absolutely love it. And I want, if there was like someone that could sell play, there's no doubt in my mind it would be you. You'd just be like the play salesman.
Yeah.
You should go work for Nerf and just be their VP of sales.
Dude, I would love that. I reached out to Arobi because I say in the book, like, your guys' Arobi is the best toy for playing catch because it's so unpredictable. It's soft. It's not going to break any windows, yada, yada, yada. And they sent me like 50 free Aerobis. So I was like, awesome. Sponsored by Aerobi.
Nice. So in reality, man, you and I both know that people are going to listen to this and they're not going to schedule play.
Right.
They're like, oh, yeah, but, I'm busy. I have important stuff to do. I have my email and there's just, more screens. Is there opportunities to integrate this play for those people that are, too busy for their mental and physical health, because that's not important at all? Is there opportunities for these people to integrate play into maybe activities that they're already doing?
Good question. I mean, like, I know there are people who just like have like Legos at work. So it's stuff that's like, it's in their face. And when they're feeling kind of stressed out, they just immediately are able to rotate their chair and take a break and do something different. But I feel like you're talking about like, how can they already start playing, or how can they start playing in their work when they've just been working, right?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of things that are very present for me right now. And basically it really is just joking around.
Yeah.
And having freedom of words instead of being uptight and holding back. So I think about, when I do email introductions, maybe at the end of the email introduction, you add a little funny anecdote, like play nice, like don't make me look bad, or I'll come after you with my super soaker. There's something goofy like that. Or there's the cashier. You start flirting with the cashier, and you're already doing these things, but there's something magical when you stop taking yourself so seriously and start just injecting this goofiness into life's mundane activities.
Right. And so much of that is just giving yourself permission to do it again, because all of us did this when we were kids, right? We all goofed around and joked around and weren't, for the most part, unless you grew up in like an intense family, we were all like goofballs when we were growing up. And it's just a matter of like giving yourself permission and occasionally being around personality types that are like that too. It's like, I think the reason comedians have a really rough life when you think about it, like it's a rough gig being a stand-up comedian, but I think they stay in it because of the people that they surround themselves with are hilarious. Like they don't take anything seriously. And so it's like it's fun having conversations with a bunch of goofballs who make jokes of everything. And so like I think it's really important to do external play outside of work because it trickles back into your life, like viewing life as a series of opportunities to have fun. And viewing every interaction you have as an opportunity to have fun with this person, and realizing like they're scared, they're holding back just like you, and you can be the one who breaks that. And Scott, you're really good. You and Ben are really good at this. It's just like goofing around with people and getting them to break out of their shell, I guess, is like making them relaxed. And it's really easy to do. It just takes practice. It takes the realization that everyone around you is socially anxious and like they're having that weird kind of scared, tentative look on their face. And you can be the one who's like, hey man, relax. And just joke around with them. And it's not hard to do. It's something very easy when you give yourself permission to. And the more you do it, the more it actually opens up the world to you, and you can spontaneously suddenly you're spontaneously forming relationships with people. You're able to go on dates more easily. You're able to set up these weird random business encounters that wouldn't have happened if you weren't that guy who made that joke, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's really critical to do some type of play that's outside of work. And if you have to, I think it really helps to like pay for it, because then you are actually committed to doing it.
Totally. That's really great. It's so funny. You just mentioned this kind of the social benefits of play. And I have football practice on Friday nights down here in Brazil. And it's at 8 at night until 11 p.m. So I end up coming off of this football practice, like showering up and then going out with my roommates. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is more so than when I drink Red Bull or, you know, all this other stuff that's supposed to make you fun. I actually am more on socially after the football practice and just have like that freedom of words, really leaning into life and conversations instead of approaching them timidly than any other time in my life. It's really amazing. And it's you, I talked about this a little with you before, but it's you get in that flow state when you have the physicality of play in your life.
And there's actually another reason why you probably have that confidence. And why do you think that is? After spending multiple hours around your teammates who you're playing with.
Well, truthfully, it's because I'm the only gringo out there who grew up playing American football. But outside of that, I think that it's probably because maybe because I have the camaraderie of a bunch of individuals.
Exactly.
It makes me feel really good.
Yeah. So this is the other element that's so critical for play, that like so many people who are anxious don't even recognize that like this is why they're anxious, is like they're isolated. They don't feel understood or connected to other people. And nothing bonds you faster with other people than play. It's the social lubricant you need to form actual real friendships. And like my best friends still to this day were people I played sports with growing up. And there's something that ties you together permanently. Like my best friends in Austin are the people I've been doing improv with for several months now. And you need fun to connect you to other human beings. It can't just be because, you know, we're on this mission together that's super serious and we're going to conquer the world. You need people that you associate fun with. And you feel when you play football with your friends, you're in a group. you belong, and you are not on your own. You know that, like, no matter what, the group is there to back you up. And when you go out to a club or something, you still have those feelings of like, you belong. You're in a group, you're safe. And humans are social animals. We cannot exist or function in isolation. We can't do it on our own. And that's the real tragedy about living in America, I think, is like families live in little homes where they're isolated from their neighbors versus like a commune, which has dozens of families living together, which might sound like a nightmare to some people, but it like all the data shows that happiness is much higher in these communes because they belong, and things are actually easier for them because they take care of each other. And I think the real tragedy of what we're going through right now is like we're all kind of connected to each other through screens, but we're living in aquariums where we're just looking at the outside world, this tech world, through our screens and tapping on glass, and we're not actually connected. And it's really sad because you see people all the time, like being connected to the outside world, even when they're around their friends. This is why I say, like in the book, like it's so critical to disconnect, turn off your phone, like disconnect from social media when you're playing, because your job is not to impress all these people who aren't there. It's to be present with the people who did show up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the quote. When you play, play. When you work, work. When you're with your girlfriend, don't freaking check email.
The classic saying, I think it was Socrates.
Yeah, that had to be your boy Plato, who came up with that because he was playing.
Right.
So, this is so present with me. This is such a powerful message. And I think it's really interesting too, because a lot of people, they've been fed their whole lives, work harder, work more efficient. Instead of asking, how can I make this more fun? They're asking, how can I make this more efficient? How can I optimize? Right. And we were both that dude once in our lives, and still I fight it off. I try to fight that as much as I can and just maintain balance. I think just switch gears here a little bit. There are probably people that read this book, or maybe they listen to this and they go, okay, play. Like, are you still ambitious? Do you still work a lot? Like, it can't all be fun and games all the time to achieve the changes and the things in the world that we want to see. What would you say to these people?
Dude, I mean, everyone goes through phases, right? Like everyone goes through personal phases of life. They evolve. And if I was talking to a 20-year-old who was like just getting into all the startup stuff and was like, this is where it's at, he might read my book and be like, this isn't for me. So where I am currently, I understand that some people I'm far behind and some people I'm going to be far ahead. And where I am currently is like, health is the number one priority. I recognize that like, if I don't take care of myself, none of this stuff matters. And like falling into other people's traps of like, we have to succeed, we have to do all this stuff that, I was either doing out of guilt or this feeling that I had to be more prestigious and successful. Like, I can't keep falling into that trap. So I really do like carefully think through, is this something that's going to be fun for me? Is this something where I can actually serve other people and make their life better and more fun and more fulfilling to the best of my knowledge? And is this something that's aligned with like me getting into the groove with nature and not actually like going against it? Because for so many years, like I went against what my body was telling me all the time. I abused my body, dude. I abused it really hard, and I'm paying the consequences now. I'm actually feeling like I think I've done a huge mess to like my back. I think I've damaged my liver from the drugs and the drinking that I've done. And that might be surprising to some people to hear, but like a lot of these really high performers, like, don't just do this stuff through sheer willpower, you know? Like we use performance enhancers to get to do what we need to do, or to get to that level. And I certainly did that in secret, and I'll say it now, but it was like something I wasn't telling anybody. So just taking care of myself, I've realized like there's nothing in this world. There's no level of success that is worth destroying myself over, because I think I've learned that one of the most valuable lessons I've learned is like nature's wheels grind slow but steady. And like, you don't notice it right away. Then one day you're like, when the hell did I get so old? Like, why do I have dark circles under my eyes? Like, this is the product of abuse.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted abuse.
How do you define success for yourself now that you have this understanding?
I think now, I had this talk with this girl I've been dating the other week, was that now, honestly, like, my biggest thing is nurturing friendships, like having quality relationships. There's been a lot of research, and that was the one thing I realized, like, I just fundamentally ignored or let atrophy over the years, was just like, I just ignored my friendships. I wasn't a very good friend. And I think I'm still getting back into that rhythm, but like what I read was this guy did tons of research on what the world's happiest people had in common. And there was only one thing that the very, very happiest people in the top like 2% of all these people were surveyed was the quality of their relationships. And it goes back again to like, people aren't individuals, like, they're social animals. And play is like, again, it's the common ground that you can found those quality relationships in and let them grow.
It's the glue.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. So I guess, one question that I always like to finish with, and I feel like truthfully we've just been hovering around this concept that really play, I mean, I think of like a transitive property right now where it's like play equals better relationships and happier equals better work equals better everything. So we might have already touched upon this, but just one question I always like to finish with in the name of this podcast is if you were to tell people, give one piece of advice that people could use to get an edge in their business and life, what would you say? What would you say them to be? This could be a ritual. This could be a mindset.
I would say, I mean, there are a number of really good answers, and obviously I'm leaning toward play, but I think people have recognized the importance of that. I think an easy way there let's see. To give you an edge, I would say if you start your day with one of the two following things and just make it a routine of either getting exercise, and I'm not talking about jumping on a treadmill and running for 30 minutes because that's miserable, but doing some form of exercise that's fun for you and puts you in that state early in the day, or meditation is just sitting or standing and focusing on your breathing. That both of those things have compounding effects that not only make you happier over the long run, they make you healthier over the long run, and they increase your fulfillment and quality of life dramatically. Like, countless studies showing this, and from personal experience, what I've found to be the two most powerful things you can create as your morning routine. Like, I think, I forget who it is. I think it's Eben Pagan, who's like the success ritual, the morning success ritual is like, you should start your day with the most important things to you, not jumping on email, but like start your day with exercise or meditation or both. 5 minutes of meditation, then 20 minutes of exercise. And people are always saying like, I don't have enough time in the day. Yes, you do. Everyone does. Yeah. Like days are long.
Such a
if you don't have enough time in the day, you don't know how to manage your time. You're not doing a good job. So either wake up earlier or make time. You can do it. And like, you have to understand, it's like, it's not a one and done thing. It's gotta be like, this is every day that I'm doing this, that I'm making it a priority. If I miss a day every now and then, oh well, get back into it. And it has this long-term lasting effect on the quality of your life if you make it a priority every morning. And when you do it in the morning, it sets the tone for the rest of your day.
Totally. My buddy, Andy Drish, who I'm literally about to get on a call with after this to interview him, calls it, before he starts his day, he grounds himself. Mm-hmm. And I really like that metaphor because it alludes to this idea of setting the stage for the entire day. Is there a particular meditation program or style that you recommend for people that may have never dipped their feet into those waters before?
So meditation is intimidating to the average person, or like people just hate the idea because it's tough initially, right? And I was at a point for a while where I was doing an hour of meditation a day, which sounds probably crazy. But I had a very like crazy routine that I would suggest do 5 minutes sitting with your back against the wall and just pretending your thoughts are clouds. If they interrupt you, or if there's a thought that's like, says something super inappropriate or outlandish in your mind, don't try and change it. Don't try and perfect it. Just let it drift. Just observe it and be okay with it. Be cool with it. Recognize that everything's cool. Everything is acceptable. And then just return to watching your breathing. And when I say watching your breathing, I'm just saying like, okay, if people really need help with meditation, just do this. Do 20 of these breaths where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, release it for 4 seconds. Okay? So that's 12 times, what did I say, 20? That's two. I don't know what that adds up to. 20. Yeah. I can't do it off the top of my head. This is so sad. Okay, let me think in my head real fast. 5 of these per minute, 25 of them, not 20. Do 25 of those breaths and you'll be done in 5 minutes. And that's an easy way to do it.
Yeah, and if you say you don't have 5 minutes a day in your time, it's just realize that's a ridiculous statement.
It's a dirty lie, or it's you like finding an excuse.
Totally. So, Charlie, this has been so much fun, man. I have really enjoyed this. I have a big smile on my face right now.
Awesome.
If people want to find out more about your book, about future projects, what are the best places to go for them to get that information?
Sure. So you can find my book on Amazon. Just search for Play It Away. And if you want my other book, Recession Proof Graduate, just go to charliehoehn.com, CharlieHoehn.com, and it's on there. You can download it for free. And my website's really ugly and amateurish right now. It's getting redesigned, but it'll eventually be much easier to keep track of what I'm doing.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure, and really appreciate you sharing all of your amazing knowledge and perspective today with everyone listening.
Of course, man. It's my pleasure. It's always it's been fun getting to know you, Scott, and I thank you for having me on.
Before we finish up with today's Mindshare, I just want to say thanks for listening to another episode of The Competitive Edge. If you enjoyed the ideas in this episode and want access to all the conversations, tactics, and mind shares we'll be sharing in the future, the best thing you can do is subscribe to The Competitive Edge on iTunes. And while you're there, if you felt like this show has made a positive impact on your day, it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes as well. Now, I know we covered a lot in this episode, and there might be a few key ideas or tools that you want to remember. So we went ahead and compiled all of the notes, links, and even a full searchable transcript of this conversation for you on lifelonglearner.com. That's life-longlearner.com. I also want to give you the details on a cool contest I'm running right now at lifelonglearner.com/fun. By entering the contest, you'll have a chance to win everything from Amazon gift cards to a free month of having your very own dedicated virtual assistant to an opportunity to come and hang out with me and my buds for a few days where we'll teach you how to create your very own passive income stream. To enter this contest and learn more about everything we're giving away, head on over to lifelonglearner.com/fun. And now, let's dive into today's Mindshare. Before we go any further, I want to thank today's sponsor, Zirtual.com. People always ask me, where should I go for a virtual assistant, or how do I get more time and stop doing things that I shouldn't be doing? And my answer has always been, get a virtual assistant. I got a virtual assistant just about 2 years ago with Zirtual, and it changed my life. I have one person with me at all times. It's just an email away, a phone call away, a text message away to help me do all the things that I shouldn't be doing, like making appointments or dealing with customer service or whatever it is. This saves me a ton of time and allows me to focus on the things that are most important to me. So I want to let you guys know about Zirtual. And if you want, you can go over to Zirtual.com and learn more about their service on that site. Zirtual's been kind enough to give me 1 free month of virtual assistant service to provide one lucky listener. So if you head on over to lifelonglearner.com/fun, you can find all the details out about how you could win your own free virtual assistant for a month to give it a try. So once again, check out Zirtual.com and get started using a virtual assistant. Hey guys, as you know, at the end of these shows, I like to give away little tips and just talk about things that I think might help you be more effective and get a competitive edge in your life and business, like the name of this podcast. And recently I noticed that I was under a lot of stress, and for some reason my head was hurting. I wasn't feeling very good about continuing to work, and I just was losing motivation, honestly. And I was talking to one of my friends, who is also my roommate. And what I realized is that the reason that I was having trouble staying motivated and I wasn't necessarily feeling inspired was because I wasn't celebrating my wins. I was completing these tasks, doing really cool things that 5 or 6 months ago I would have thought would be impossible. Yet, because of the incremental improvement that it took to get to this place, I was expecting these things to happen, and I wasn't really celebrating them when I achieved these things or I accomplished these things. And to get really specific, I had, just finished an interview with somebody that I really looked up to, and I was helping somebody else promote a blog post that did pretty well, and I just wasn't feeling really that good. And the reason was because I was just moving on to the next task. I wasn't taking a moment to just think about how awesome it was and how good it felt to celebrate that win. And to go even further, I wasn't telling anybody else about it. I wasn't telling my buds, who, not in a braggadocious way, but I wasn't telling them, hey man, just interviewed XYZ and just finished this blog post or whatever it was. It was just me isolated in a silo, not really allowing myself the time or energy to feel good. So if you're feeling like you might be losing a little motivation, or your head hurts like mine did, or you just aren't really that pumped and inspired to accomplish what you're trying to set out to, maybe think about the little wins that you're completing towards that goal and take the time and effort and energy to celebrate them. And not just by yourself, but to do it with other people if you can, because then it becomes even stronger. So I hope you found this useful. I certainly did in my journey in the past couple of days, just being cognizant of this. And I will see you at the next episode.